Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another special episode of Herschel Talkers. Got another great return guest. Got our buddy Derrick Dawg. How are we doing today?
Good. How's it going? Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. Make sure to like and subscribe and share the podcast. We're getting really close on the goals for the year, so that's much appreciated. Jumping right into it, Georgia with another good win last week, 45-19 over, I guess they're calling them the Maroon Bulldogs. The Cowbells start Vegas, 45-19. Looks like it was pretty frigid there. Um, Great win. Stetson Bennett, as he normally looking like a Heisman Trophy candidate, and then he throws a couple picks. 289. Looked pretty good on his wheels. He was breaking ankles on that one time. Got a little close there right before halftime. Punt return, probably the worst series we've seen. Kirby even said that's probably one of the worst coaching, maybe not on him, but just set of plays at the very end. But then they came out in second half right away. I think Ladd McConkey with that end around 70-yard, and they were off to the races. Covered the spread. Okay, good teams win, great teams cover. But what was your thoughts on the game, Derrick?
No, I think it was a nice road win. I thought it was going to be definitely a tough one, and I think that was kind of a curveball on. Definitely nice to see how the team was going to look in that cold weather because when you get those cold temps like that out of the blue, poor Kirby, he looked like he had grabbed someone else's jacket out the closet there for a little bit, but
Right.
it was good to see them kind of have a little adversity and overcome it. Definitely
Right.
at the halftime, I thought they would have just kneeled it and just took it in at halftime, and just that whole series was just a mess. But
Right.
um, overall, I thought Bennett played good. The defense, as usual, played lights out. Especially, it's nice to see the defense play that against a team that likes to throw it about 50 times or more a game.
Mm-hmm.
So to have that, definitely, you can tell the defense is getting better and better with every game, which is scary with how
Yeah.
young our defense is. So they're only going to get better, which is perfect because we got some more games coming, and gonna need the defense to get even better for sure.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I think you can definitely tell when 88's in there. Jalen Carter, definitely a difference maker.
Yeah,
The couple of games he missed, you could definitely tell. But it's almost like that bend don't break. I mean, I think what's really is you can't run on these guys, and you're making these teams one dimensional. I know they're not a running team, but still, hey, 15 carries, 47 yards, 3.1. If you do that against anybody, and they contained Will Rogers. I mean, except for that punt return, I bet you basically they only gave up one touchdown. I think it was late
yep,
in the fourth, right? When the
yep.
game was out of hand.
Well,
Um,
I think it's really great to see Ladd McConkey's like really turn things around. From you can
yes,
tell when he made those mistakes earlier in the season, he was in his head and then kept making them, and then it's like he's finally gotten out of his head and he's back to making plays as if nothing. He never made any mistakes earlier in the season, kind of thing. So that was good to see too.
right. Kyrus Jackson really stepped up. He's one of the OGs over there. He made some good catches, and it's great to hear him in some of the interviews. Is like, I'm here to put trophies on the wall and things. And I'm not here to do 1,000 yards receiving. I'm here to help the team get wins.
Yep.
So showing that he's a real unselfish player. Big O looking great. 5 catches for 60 yards. Brock Bowers is doing his thing. Rosemary Jack Saints, I think, blocks really well, and he's been making some catches and stepping up. I guess if I had to get real nitpicky about the game, I think we got a really late touchdown, but didn't really get it going running, which I think 2 years ago, Mississippi State shut down Zamir White, and our numbers were really bad. So maybe they just have a really good run defense.
Right.
But got to have that going down the stretch against some of these really great teams. But yeah, all in all, a good performance. Covered. Everybody was a little nervous. It was going to be on the road, cowbells,
Yep.
loud environment, cold at night. So I thought they took care of business. No really bad injuries. So yeah, I thought all in all, great win. wish we would actually get a night game at home in Athens. That's another subject. I know we
Well,
texted
I,
about it, but
I mean, the craziest stat to me is we're the first defending national champion since 1997 not to host a night game at home in the regular season. I mean, to me, that's just I can't even fathom. Like, it's just crazy to me. It's almost as if they didn't need to upgrade those lights in the stadium because we don't ever get any night games.
exactly. Don't turn them on, man. Yeah, I agree.
Right.
It's a good point.
Right.
So yeah, took care of business, no injuries, which is great. Moving on to this week, it's gonna be Georgia at Kentucky, 3:30 game. I know earlier in the year, if you looked at pregame schedules, this gauntlet of games, this was going to be a nerve-wracking one, but it looks like Kentucky with Will Levis, even though they're saying one of the top quarterbacks in the draft, I think now he might seem, I don't know where you might see him, but I think he's like a round 2 guy. But he struggled. I feel like they lost to Vandy last week, terrible loss, but I almost feel like this Kentucky team's kind of laid down and died 6-4.
Yeah.
Will Levis, 16 touchdowns, 9 picks. They are going to be physical. Chris Rodriguez runs really hard. They're going to try to establish the run. I just hope we don't have any really bad injuries because they always play us hard. It's going to be cold. What is it going to be like? Mid-30s, 3:30 game. I'm glad it's not a night game. But what's your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, anytime in the cold on the road, it can be a barn burner. But I do think since Kentucky has been, when they were ranked near the top 10 after they lost that game, and Will Levis was one of the reasons why they lost that game after that, and they kind of just fell off after that. And then he's been battling injuries. They have definitely been on the struggle bus. I think they've kind of thrown the towel in, as in, looking to next year kind of thing. Will Levis is probably in his head because, you look at teams whenever a player gets, hey, you'll be a top 3 pick in the draft or what, as Will Levis was being looked at, which baffles me. But I think that kind of played a little bit of a role as well in his play and everything, because some of the decisions you just see and you're like, dude, what are you doing? So, hopefully Vandy beating them broke their spirits enough to where when we get there, it's just put that defense on them, let Bennett make a few plays to McConkey and Bowers and old Darnell Washington, the man. Let's get out of there without any injuries and move on. That's the biggest key. Always cold weather games worries me with the injuries and everything.
Yeah, I agree. The injury part, especially going down the stretch. I know 2 years ago when we went up there, I think we had several injuries. There's Jordan Davis. I know LeCount had that motorcycle injury. There's I think secondary. So yeah, I hope we get in, get out. The other question I wanted to ask, are we going to see, they keep saying he's ready. Are we going to see AD Mitchell down the stretch? Are we going to see him for the Tech game? Do you put him in against LSU? I mean, what's up? That's terrible.
I think save him either for the SEC championship or for the playoffs, and make a pick. If his ankle sprain is really bad to where if he's going to come back in the SEC championship still not be 100%, sit him out for a few more weeks for the playoffs. I think that's the best move, because I would think hopefully he would be near 100% come the end of December, being out as long as he is, or that ankle sprain is even worse than they're really talking about. So hopefully, if medical staff looks at him, if he can't be 100%, just hold him out until the playoffs, because rather have him for the playoffs and have everybody ready to go than get in that LSU game and then re-injure that ankle, because it wasn't 100%. So that's what I would hope for. Definitely wouldn't play him against Georgia Tech. I mean, that's just, that's a game I don't feel like have to have him to beat them. So I would definitely hold him out till at least the SEC championship.
Yeah, I agree. At least get in a couple series, maybe a couple deep shots just to get his endurance up. But yeah, I completely agree with that if he's not ready. Right. I think I was reading today earlier. It looks like Mims has been practicing, so I'd add depth, Marius Mims. I feel like the O-line's quietly gotten a lot better. I think they got nominated for Joe Moore Award, so maybe Stacy Searles isn't as bad, because I know earlier in the year after the Missouri game, everybody's like, yeah, maybe it's a bad hire. I don't
Are
know how he's
they
doing. I assume he's doing okay in recruiting, but we'll see.
are they subbing the? I don't feel like they're subbing them out as much as they were doing that rotation as much, to where, because I feel like they've definitely gotten a lot better in this stretch as the season has gone on, and you can tell it. I mean, it's like that wall that's getting built up. So
Like for example, reading here, Xavier Truss played 66 of the 71 snaps. So I kind of feel like him and Rattledge are the kind of like the glue on the guards. They're kind of, it's their job.
Speaking of that, how about old Kendall Milton getting in the action?
Finally, that was a good run at the end. I think you
It
need him down
was.
the stretch.
Well, he actually had that old burst that when he was a freshman, like we would see, and he would come in and get that break off that 25-yard run. I mean, it was good to see he actually had a burst and held on to the ball. So
I just feel bad for the kids. What, sprained knee one year, another sprained knee, and then growing this year. It's like always something. I feel bad for the kid. Seems like a good guy, but just can't get on the field.
Yeah.
Well, real quick, make what's your pick here? I think it's 22.5 point spread. Get your pick for the game Saturday. 3:30 CBS. You know, it's better than 12 o'clock game, I guess.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 45. I'm gonna go 45-18.
Okay. Got them to cover. I like that one. Mine's pretty similar. I think they're going to slow it down a little bit the way they run the ball. They're not going to be able to run on this defense. Maybe a late garbage touchdown. I could see them like last year trying to score the last couple of possessions, but I'm going to go 38-10.
Okay.
It's just hard to hold. They got a pretty good defense. I think 21st rate defense, but I mean, that Tennessee kind of took their soul that game, 44-6, where that was a beatdown. And I feel like we're better than them. So I'm going to go 38-10, get in, get out, no injuries, get on the road.
Nice.
We got the nerds next week.
Right.
The annual beatdown.
The nooner annual beatdown.
Exactly. 5 straight, I think. Maybe we'll get them back when they're actually good. And then last night, talk about the college football rankings here, updated ones. I think the top 5 did not change. So I guess hypothetical, and who would you like maybe the best matchup for Georgia going down? And then what will you possibly see? I know there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of stuff still left to play, 3 weeks left.
As long as it's not another SEC. If Tennessee was to get in, say they get in, they would need to be third, so we don't play them in the first round. But I would prefer give the Big Ten 2 teams and let TCU in. I mean, to me, that's the best bet for Georgia. But I definitely think with Tennessee sitting right there, I mean, the real interesting thing is going to be say in the SEC championship, for some reason, we were to lose to LSU wins, and Tennessee's on the outlook. You have TCU sitting right there, and then say Michigan beat Ohio State. Who do you pick to go in? Because this is the thing, the media loves Ohio State, but how are you going to keep an SEC champion out? But, then the conversation is, well, LSU would have 2 losses. One of those losses is to Tennessee, which was a blowout. So who do you go with? So that's the chaos right there. If that and it could have, it'd be unfortunate if it did, but if for some reason it did, you were talking. I don't know how you pick anybody. Georgia would still be in, but where do you play from there? Like, to me, would just be chaos.
I think LSU gets in just because the SEC championship has not gotten in. They probably wouldn't like it, but I think you'd basically be sticking it to Tennessee and they get left out. They'd be like, damn, really?
Right.
But a couple of scenarios going to throw at you. I think the best matchup, if it ends up happening, is for a Georgia fan, hey, who would you like to ideally play? I think if TCU won against 4, we would like to play them. or I think we'd match up well with USC with no defense. I could just see they couldn't outscore us.
Well,
And
the
then
only thing,
I like Clemson too. I think we match up really well with Clemson. We would be all in DJU or even the other kids'
yeah,
face
no
all
DJ
night.
ukulele.
I
Well,
think any of those three.
the one thing is, the funny thing is they put a 2-loss Bama team ahead of a 1-loss Clemson and UNC. I mean, they have no respect for the ACC, is what
Yeah.
the playoff committee is showing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree with that. The only thing is I wouldn't want to play USC just because of their offense can be high power. They don't have a defense, but they do have a high powered offense. I mean, to me, I would like to get another. I think if it's us, I would enjoy 2 Big Ten teams and then TCU getting in. But as long as TCU stays number 4, we get them in the first round. And if Tennessee gets in and it's against Michigan or Ohio State, I think the biggest issue that comes about is if Michigan beats Ohio State, we win the SEC, which definitely think is going to happen. Tennessee's sitting right there. Is it going to be 2, or do they leave TCU out and put in 2 SEC teams and 2 Big Ten teams? That's, I think, going to be the interesting storyline to watch because, they've done it before to the Big 12. Remember a few years back, Baylor was sitting, was it Baylor or TCU was sitting right there and they dropped them down and then put someone else in. So I think because TCU has been behind in too many games to where, it's a good story. They're undefeated, but, who does the Big 12 really have with Oklahoma and Texas not being the teams that normally are the powerhouse of that conference?
I agree. And I do think Disney is just praying or looking for somebody to get out in California for ratings wise.
Yeah.
But USC's got a gauntlet. They got UCLA's good. Then they probably end up having to play Notre Dame, which has gotten better, and then they would probably play Oregon so you're looking at 3 ranked teams down the stretch. But if they somehow win that out, I think that builds a resume up if they somehow pull it out. But
Right.
I don't know. I think one of those teams is going to get them.
So when is the Oregon game?
They're talking about they would play them in the Pac-12 championship.
Oh yeah.
So that would be their 3rd. And then Notre Dame, I don't know if it's at Notre Dame, but let's see.
Yeah, that one should be close. But just
they got a tough stretch. It'll be 16, 18, and then wherever Oregon will be maybe top 10.
If it's Oregon USC, just somebody tell Dan Lanning if it's 4th and 1 on your 30-some yard line with a minute and some to play, punt the ball.
Right, there you go. Yeah. So going down the stretch, we beat Tennessee, but I don't like playing them again, neutral site. Who's maybe the team, if you had to pick, who would you be worried about the matchup for Georgia, like in the playoffs? Who would the team maybe I don't want to play them or?
I think having to play Tennessee again would just because of, it's always tough. We play Alabama. Normally it's us playing Alabama in the SEC championship, and then we meet them again in the playoffs, right? And it worked out this past year, but previous years it was tough, So it's, just having to play, a team like Tennessee. They've got a high power offense, but I do think we definitely expose them. So, I think Tennessee, to me, they're the only ones because of their offense. But, Ohio State, there's nothing about them that's like, man, I would be very worried. I mean, they've struggled against a 1-7 Northwestern team. I get the wind was blowing 25 miles an hour, but if you can't run it against that team, you're having issues. Yeah. So,
they haven't won a game on U.S. soil.
Right. Exactly. And then Michigan, I mean, you don't even know what kind of team they really are. They ain't played nobody. I mean, their non-conference schedule, which they're doing it again next year. Next year, they play 3 straight cupcakes before they get into the Big Ten play. I mean, it should be you have to play at least a legit Power 5 team, like to add in your non-conference for one, but I mean, next year they don't even play. I mean, when you're playing teams like Hawaii and stuff like that, like, come on, like, I think they're a good team, but you don't know how good they are because they kind of just skate through until they got to play Ohio State. That's because that's their toughest game.
Yeah. I'm be interested in seeing the weather because there's Ohio State fans love to blame the weather. And then another thing is Michigan quietly has the number one total defense.
Yeah.
And they run the ball really well. And I feel like those kind of in the trenches run the ball teams have given Ohio State last couple of years problems. So be interested to see. But I mean, it is at the shoe, as they say. It's gonna be rocking there, 12 o'clock game. So we'll see.
Which makes no sense to me, but
hey, big noon kickoff for Fox, whatever it is,
Big Ten is that there ain't no way you're a number two and number three team should be playing at noon. That's a travesty. That is a game that the earliest it should be is 3:30. And it should be 7:30, 8 o'clock at night in prime time. I mean, I'm just, it's kind of that's what I know. The CBS SEC thing is 3:30. That's the prime time for an SEC game. But I'm looking forward to when the ESPN takes over to where those games can be in prime time like they should be at 7:30 or 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. Because, those kind of games are games that, it needs that spotlight on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, Fox could make it a primetime game, and you're looking at crazy ratings. So yeah, I agree. They should do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then before those games, it'd be great to have a VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. 0 carbs, 0 sugar. Live long, live well, live it up. My personal favorite is the elderberry. Drank a couple of those at a couple of tailgates for the Georgia game. This will be good when it's freezing cold this weekend. If you're in Kentucky on the road, drink one of these. You can get 20% off Hustle on your checkout. You can order these on VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. Discount code 20% off Hustle for the discount. And then jumping right into it, Heisman Trophy real quick. Get your thoughts on this. This is just one of the first websites popped up. Looks like CJ Stroud, if you're a betting person, plus 200. Hendon Hooker, 130. Hendon Hooker plus 300. And then we were talking earlier, your boy Drake May from North Carolina. I believe he's from Huntersville or Greensboro area here, local.
Yeah.
I guess this Blake Corum dude's pretty good too. I hadn't looked at his yards. Bo Nix, I think he's out after that week. Maybe Caleb Williams, if he can start rolling in these last 3 games, could be a name. But who's your thoughts on?
I mean, in my opinion, I think it's the Drake May kid. If they win the ACC against Clemson, in my opinion, the numbers he has put up are as comparable as CJ Stroud when it comes to touchdowns, things of that nature. But that kid is. I mean, you hear about the talking heads catching on with him. I mean, Hooker is, he is the one you grab on with Tennessee doing as good as they are. But, at the same time, you got to kind of look at to me, one of the Heisman Trophy, if you're a Heisman Trophy winner, you have that game in that big time spot that you pulled through, that helped with that. And I feel like, when Tennessee played us and we shut down Hooker, to me, I think CJ Stroud, Drake May are the two for me.
Yeah. I completely agree. I'd go with the Drake May kid. I just think I was looking in comparison earlier. We were talking, he looks similar maybe to like an Aaron Rodgers. He can roll out, reads the field really well, got a cannon for an arm. Like you mentioned, if he just had some defense, this would be a dangerous team.
Yeah.
He does have, he is on a good team, 1-loss team. If he could somehow win out and beat Clemson or have 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards on that Clemson defense could really help. I know they keep pushing it because we own a number 1 team. Anyway, Bennett could just get an invite to New York. It'd be really good for us. Just get top 4, top 5. I don't know, but it'd be great.
I mean, he should get an invite. I mean, he's had some Heisman Trophy moments this season for sure in games. I mean, he's over here breaking kids' ankles, juking kids out of their shoes, kind of thing.
He looked really good in the Tennessee game.
Yeah. So That's why I say, man, he does throw a pick or two every now and then, but in my opinion, he definitely manages that offense very well.
Yeah, I completely agree. We'll see though. It seems like it's always a QB award, but I don't know. I don't feel like the running backs are getting a lot of love this year.
Right.
Yeah, I guess anything else you wanted to bring up? We kind of went through everything there.
I'm trying to think of any other big headlines.
Oh yeah, I wanted to ask. I guess coach. We always like to talk about coaching search. So, from what you've read, what would you have to hear about maybe Auburn? I know that's the big one that's out there. Who would you say?
In my opinion, I think all signs point to the Lane train.
Yeah.
And the one reason why I say that is because earlier in the season he made comments about that Ole Miss crowd. They're not getting involved. They're not being loud. And in that Bama game, if you watch that game between them, they didn't make a difference at all. I mean, let's be real. When you go, a lot of those fans, when they go to Ole Miss, they go to the Grove, which is great. It's a great tailgate spot. It really is. But their stadium compared to Auburn's is like a high school stadium. It really is. And, and I will just say, after watching Auburn beat the Aggies, which is hilarious, that crowd was still there after the game being rocking. I mean, to not even be bowl eligible, and you think they would be playing for the SEC West, how loud they were in that game. So, I just think the money, the support, I just think it fits the Lane train because he can go there. It makes a difference there. The fans are like wild as anything there compared to Ole Miss. Ole Miss is always, I felt like, been that stepping stone kind of job in the SEC. If you do good there, you can get a bigger SEC job. So I mean, I think it's either him or Hugh Freeze for sure. But something just tells me the Sankey he's still not going to let Hugh Freeze back in the SEC. Just something tells me that. I don't know.
I agree.
But what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that on Lane Train. Another interesting thing I heard yesterday or whatever. So by state law, you can only get a 4 to 4.5 year contract in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah.
So if Auburn goes, hey, we can give you an 8-10 year contract for this, I mean, you're going to get some crazy contract buyout, even if you struggle like Jimbo's getting.
Yep.
Which is a whole nother story. I think that really stood out this week is like you can get a 2-time, and I think Lane Train is his agent's Jimmy Sexton, who's Kirby's agent, who's Saban's agent, who's just cleaning. I think he has like 80% of all the coaches. That guy's killing it. So I just think he gets a longer extension and maybe more money than Ole Miss has.
Yeah. Well, I'd heard a rumor that the rumor was if Lane Train goes, they were trying to reach over to Muschamp to find out how much to get to be the defensive coordinator there. He ain't going back to the barn, so they can keep joining.
Didn't they just bump him up to like $950 for a 3-year thing? Did you see that by Georgia? So I think he's happy with his kid there, and he's got a good setup.
Living the dream. But it'll be interesting to see what they do there. I definitely don't think Dion is going there just because. And if I was Auburn, no way would I want to hire him because he would go there, build your program up, and as soon as when that FSU job comes back open, which it will, I would bet in a couple of years. It's nice they're ranked 23rd right now, but they're still not a factor in that ACC, which is a crazy weak conference as it is. As soon as that FSU job opens up, I think Dion's headed there. So that's why I think a lot of big schools, may not be trying to move forward with him is because they know that deep down is when that FSU job opens up, he is gone no matter what. But which I get it. It'll be interesting to see what A&M does with Jimbo. I mean, he really has put them in a bad spot because it's almost as if he doesn't even care coaching right now.
Yeah, and that buyout. I mean, I know they say all these colleges have crazy money, but I just that's a lot of money. And then you got to buy. You got to get another coach to come in, and it's just. Well, I think at least one more year.
Well, it was funny. So Cadillac Williams is making $400,000 right now, and he's making millions and just lost to Cadillac Williams first win as a head coach. I mean, it's just crazy that you can tell the people that want it, like Cadillac Williams, he was all over the sideline, just energy everywhere. And you look at someone like Jimbo, and he got his money. He knows he's getting his money, and the motivation is gone.
Yeah, I agree. I'll make a quick hot take. How about this? How about if Lane Train goes to Auburn? How about anyway, since he's right there in Mississippi already, if they called up old Dion, be like, hey, we'll give you a 4-year deal. Just saying to Ole Miss, or who would Ole Miss look at?
I could definitely see that. Like, since he's right there, it would be a very easy transition. Absolutely could see. I didn't even think about that, but that would definitely be something to watch, because I mean, he could go there, be there for a few years. FSU opens up, boom, hop on over there. So that would be something interesting to see for sure. How much longer do you think Saban's going to stay coaching?
Earlier this year, I mean, this is for, he had 2 losses in a down year. I said 3 years, so I'm gonna kind of stick to that. So I give him another 2, and then he just, I don't know, like my mom has always watched. My mom was saying he just looks tired on the sideline, like burnout.
Yeah.
It was a bad 2. I mean, think about it. You're like Bryce Young, one of the best quarterbacks recently, gone. Will Anderson's gone. He's probably going to clean house with the coordinators. That Pilroy guy doesn't look like it. I mean, he can run around. He's dangerous with his legs, but he didn't look like it.
He can't throw.
They had to go to the transfer portal for a lot of guys. I know they have like currently #1 recruiting class, but he's just got to make a lot of changes. And 71, I mean, father time, I think maybe 2 more years if I had to pick. I don't see him doing a extended contract.
Do you think he tries bringing back Jeremy Pruitt?
I can see him doing that. I've been watching Dog Nation daily, and they've been having his weekly podcast with Mike Griffith on there, and it's interesting he's doing that, and he's free. But I mean, how many times he's been there? Is that 3?
Yeah,
I mean that's kind of rare. I mean, he needs a job.
He is a good defensive coordinator. I'll give him credit there. So
stay in your lane though. That's all you do.
Exactly. Don't leave after if you go there. But I definitely could see. Yeah, Saban does look tired. I mean, shoot, just to think they're easily a couple plays away from having 4 or 5 losses, which is just crazy to think. I mean,
I agree.
But the crazier thing is, how funny would it be if the Barn wins their next game and beats Bama to become bowl eligible?
That'd be great.
How great would that be?
So they're saying the rumor was that somehow Cadillac Williams beats Bama, he might get the job. And they're playing hard with him. I doubt it. I mean, that was a rumor.
Yeah, I've heard some people saying like he's a great story. Like, I would keep him on because I think he could be a great recruiter. But I mean, it wasn't like they blew out the Aggies. Like, had they beat them by like 3 or 4 touchdowns, then I absolutely agree. But it was a feel good kind of thing to happen, which always look forward to in college football, to see things like that. Because he was a beast when he played, for sure.
I think they're just playing hard for him and just making them look good. They're like they didn't lay down and die, which is good.
Right. Well, that's the biggest thing I give credit. They talk about it a little bit about Kirby, but I don't think it's talked about enough is how well Kirby is in drilling in the guys of being a team, being just follow how Kirby said at the end of the game, they followed the plan. Following the plan always gives you a chance to win.
They're bought in, yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that's not talked about enough is how well Kirby is at motivating and getting these because I mean, Georgia isn't just getting a bunch of 3 stars. I mean, you're getting top players in the country to come, and some of them aren't starting immediately. And it's to like Ringo will tell you, he said in an interview that, that first year he was he was with Kirby most of the time because Kirby was wanting him to see what he needs to do. So it's just things like that to be able to take top players and, hey, just listen, follow the plan, and we're going to be okay. It's just, I think that's a key right now. What sets Georgia apart from a lot of other teams? It's not even with NIL, it's not me. It's the team. It's
Exactly.
what players can do to help the team. And you said it with Jackson. I mean, he mentioned it. I want to do whatever I can for the team. It's just stuff like little pieces like that is the difference between being a team that's in the national spotlight, playing for national championships, and playing in the Duke Mayo Bowl.
Exactly. He's got them bought in, man. They're all in, and they're a team. And to me, this might be his best coaching since he's been there. Is all the talent they lost, 15 guys, and you got a number 2 defense. Maybe not quite as good, but still great.
Oh yeah.
So, and with a better offense. So we'll see.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, man. We appreciate you coming on again, and that's another episode of Herschel Talkers. And go Dogs, and we're out.
Go Dogs. See y'all.
See you.